why Lord of Mysteries is going to be revolutionary. Lord of Mysteries is coming. Might just sweep us. Lord of Mysteries and will be and coming. The breaker of equilibrium. The Messiah. I mean, Lord of Mysteries. These are all real comments that I've received on this channel over the past month and a half, and when I tell you I have never seen an anime receive so much glaze prior to its release, I don't think I'm exaggerating, bro. Like, this show right here might just take the cake. It's not necessarily the volume of these comments that shocked me. Yeah, there were plenty of them, but that's honestly to be expected from any anime where the source material is already popular. What took me by surprise was the content of these comments. I don't think I've ever seen a nigga refer to an anime as messianic in my life, and if I'm being real, I don't think I ever wanted to. As a YouTuber that talks about anime, part of my job is to keep my ear to the floor every 3 months or so when new seasonal anime start dropping. What new shows are people talking about? What are they saying about these shows? Is anything going viral? No? Well, then how am I going to pay rent this month? Due to the plethora of super glazed comments left on my channel prior to its release, I expected Lord of Mysteries to hit the anime community like Fent in 2017. I expected it to be an instantaneous hit on arrival. I expected the so-called quote-unquote anime of the decade to enamor the anime community within mere hours of its release. I expected this anime, which is Chinese by the way, so donghua technically, but I expected this donghua to bring about an era of peace and prosperity between the East and the West, allowing us to finally squash the beef and realize that the only race that matters is the human race. I expected the One Piece niggas to finally shut the fuck up, but when the show finally did air, there was really only one main sentiment that I saw online. Yeah, this shit looks good, but what the fuck is going on? Well, that's odd, I thought to myself. Razor's YT told me that Lord of Mysteries was gonna sweep the game, and yet all I see it sweeping is niggas' brain cells into the abyss. Surely Razor's YT wouldn't lie to me, so what's really going on here? In an effort to understand what everyone was so baffled about, I linked up with 2 of my homies in a Discord call and popped on episode 1 of Lord of Mysteries. Within 5 minutes of starting episode 1, homeboy number 1 had bowed out. I reckon his puny UK brain couldn't handle the plot, but look bro, I'm gonna give it to you straight. I was right there with him, bro. I would be lying if I said I walked out of Lord of Mysteries episode 1 with a firm grasp of what the fuck had just happened on my screen. From what I could tell, within one 35-minute episode, the story had introduced at least 3 separate dimensions, 3 secret societies, 2 concurrent magic systems, 2 separate lifetimes, countless names of fictional people, places, and things that you've never heard of in your life before. And all of this lore was wrapped in a visual style that was so detailed and intricate that you damn near needed to be a Sequence 7 seer yourself to even comprehend what was going on before you. That was a Lord of Mysteries joke, by the way, in case you haven't, you know what I'm saying. And yet, in spite of all that, I still felt like there was something there. The bits and pieces of the episode that I was able to pick up hinted at a world that was as interesting as it was intricate. The main character, Klein, albeit confusing as hell, seemed compelling enough, and every time I thought about clicking away, the episode would throw some fine shit on my screen to help me lock in for another 5 minutes or so. Basically what I'm saying is, even though I wasn't able to grasp a lot, I was able to grasp enough. Just enough to make me want to honor the 3-episode rule, and now, sitting here with 3 episodes and a few YouTube explained videos under my belt, I'm actually very glad that I decided to sit through my initial confusion and lock in, unlike that lame UK nigga that gave up in like 5 minutes. If you're watching this video, you probably fall into one of 3 camps. 1, you've never seen Lord of Mysteries in your life and you just wanted a video to watch while you crushed that DoorDash you just ordered. Slow down, buddy. It's not going anywhere. That subscribe button isn't going anywhere either though, so, you know, maybe just click that or whatever. 2, you've seen Lord of Mysteries but have yet to fully lock in due to how complex the plot is, which honestly, I don't blame you, bro. I was right there with you until like a few days ago. Or 3, You're tapped in, you're locked in, you're one of the chosen, a beyonder, if you will. Shit, maybe you can even help me understand the story better if you've like read the web novel or whatever. I really only got through like the first couple chapters, but regardless of which of these camps you fall into, my hope is that this video will serve as a motivation. 𝙏𝙖𝙡 Moretti has just shot himself. What the fuck? 𝙏𝙖𝙡 Moretti has just shot himself. Oh, okay, I get it now. I think I'm being auto-censored from saying the words shot and himself in rapid succession since, you know, YouTube doesn't really like that type of talk, but you see the problem there is that it's making me sound like I'm saying he shit himself, and no. 𝙏𝙖𝙡 Moretti has just bust his melon with this fancy gold-trimmed revolver that looks like it would run your pockets for a smooth Benji on Valorant. His corpse isn't able to rest for long though, because mere moments after he logged himself out the server, if you know what I mean, a new player logged himself in on 𝙏𝙖𝙡's account. 𝙏𝙗𝙡 is a Chinese guy who found himself mysteriously isekai'd into 𝙏𝙗's body after performing some sort of luck enhancement ritual in his home dimension. He doesn't know why he was isekai'd. It's not like he had died or anything back at home. In fact, unlike most isekai protagonists, 𝙏𝙗's life before the body swap was actually pretty good. He had friends, a loving family, a couple dollars in his pocket. Hell, he apparently had a whole engineering job. Do you know how fucking tight I would be if I managed to score an engineering job in this shitty ass 2025 economy and then I get re-isekai'd into a jobless history major, bro? Anywho, for the time being, 𝙏𝙗𝙡 is now 𝙏𝙖𝙡 Moretti, and based on the fact that 𝙏𝙖𝙡 was willing to repaint his walls with his thoughts, I think it's fair to assume that 𝙏𝙖𝙡 probably wasn't living a life that the average person would envy. But you see, that's the thing, right? 𝙏𝙗𝙡's backstory is one big probably. It's shrouded in mystery for both the audience and 𝙏𝙗𝙡. We know that 𝙏𝙗𝙡's a history graduate. We know he's jobless. We know his parents are dead. We know that he probably doesn't wipe his ass given the approximate time period. We know he lives with his younger sister and older brother, and we know he has a diary, a mysterious diary in which he inscribed a rather ominous premonition before his short-lived death. Everyone will die, including me. Well, yes, 𝙏𝙗𝙡, that is how life works. Anywho, 𝙏𝙗𝙡 barely has time to process his new reality before he's being thrown headfirst into a world he's never traversed before. While running errands for his sister, he notices that he's being followed by a couple suspicious men wearing top hats, and in an effort to escape one of these men, he finds himself inside of a fortune teller's tent where he decides to get his fortune read. I suppose he hoped that learning his fortune would somehow point him in the right direction when it came to finding his way home. The fortune teller running the booth happened to be using tarot cards like the ones from 𝙏𝙗𝙡's home dimension to read fortunes, and this right here was actually the first hint to 𝙏𝙗𝙡 that he wasn't the only person from his dimension to set foot in the kingdom of Lowen. After all, if 𝙏𝙗𝙡 was able to randomly get his soul assigned to this dimension, is it really unreasonable to think that someone else may have had the same fate before him? 𝙏𝙗𝙡 gets his tarot cards for the past, present, and future laid out before him, and his tarot card that represents the present ends up being the Fool. Now I can tell that this Fool assignment is supposed to be pretty important to the series as a whole, given the fact that everything from the title of episode 1 to the moniker that 𝙏𝙗𝙡 gives himself in universe aligns with this Fool motif. But what the grander relevance of the Fool is to the story? Hell if I know, bruh. Speaking of shit about this series that perplexes me, let's get into the Gray Fog. Upon attempting to return home via the same ritual that brought him into this new dimension, 𝙏𝙗𝙡 finds himself thrown into yet another unfamiliar dimension. This second new dimension is an ethereal, spacey dimension that's filled with this gray fog, and for whatever reason, 𝙏𝙗𝙡 can use this gray fog to do like whatever he wants, I think. Frankly, I have no idea what's going on with this whole gray fog shit. 𝙏𝙗𝙡 uses the gray fog to summon a man and a woman into the fog with him, but you see, the thing about the man and the woman is that they have no idea what the fuck is going on either. I reckon the gray fog is going to be one of the more mysterious aspects of Lord of Mysteries, right up there with the importance of the Fool and this nigga's sexuality. And so I'm just gonna push those more obscure aspects of the story to the side for now and focus on the aspects of the story that I do understand, because apart from the gray fog, the rest of the story so far is relatively easy to follow. You see, it turns out those suspicious men in top hats that we saw stalking Klein a few minutes ago were actually super detectives that use their superpowers to handle supernatural occurrences within the Lowen Kingdom. And they were apparently interested in Klein because of his ties to a few other people in the kingdom that had hit the self-despawn around the same time that he had made his attempt. Well, on some typical anime type shit, one thing leads to another, and Klein ends up joining these supernatural detectives as one of their own, ingesting a potion that gives him access to a skill tree of clairvoyant abilities before proceeding to go on missions to try to unravel the dark secrets of the Lowen Kingdom. This, of course, is a very truncated, very simplified retelling of the first 3 episodes of Lord of Mysteries. The story is already proving to be an extremely layered one, with about a dozen moving parts all moving in different directions at the same time, and as far as giving an in-depth retelling is concerned, this just isn't that type of video. What I do want to focus on, however, is actually the series' complexity itself, more specifically, my personal reaction to this complexity, because if there's one thing that I've taken away from Lord of Mysteries so far, it's that I am low-key cooked as a viewer, bro. You remember my UK friend that I was talking about earlier, the one who called it quits like 5 minutes into the first episode? Yeah, well, even though I was frying his ass up for that abysmal display of mental stamina, I can't in good faith say that my initial reaction to the show was much better than his. Granted, quitting after 5 minutes is crazy, and now that I'm really sitting here and thinking about it, it was actually probably closer to 2 minutes, which like, come on, bro. But regardless of if we're talking about his 2 minutes or my 35 minutes, the fact still stands that at some point during episode 1, both he and I looked at what was on our screen and went, yeah, nah, I'm not doing this right now. In all honesty, after watching that first episode, I did not plan on continuing Lord of Mysteries. I didn't plan on giving episode 2 a chance. I didn't plan on watching any explained videos or reading any bits of the web novel for more context. I damn sure didn't plan on sinking any time, energy, and effort into making a video on the series, and yet here we are 10, 11 minutes deep into a YouTube video that was never supposed to happen. And you still haven't hit that subscribe button yet. Is that not crazy to you? The fact that you're watching this video right now proves that something changed within me between then and now. The fact that I chose to make my first video of the season a Lord of Mysteries vid, despite there being at least 3 other shows that would probably perform better on my channel, proves that, well, that really only proves that I kinda suck at being a YouTuber, but that's neither here nor there, because what I realized about Lord of Mysteries in my initial reaction to it was that I wasn't opposed to watching the show because it was bad. I was opposed to watching Lord of Mysteries because Lord of Mysteries required effort. Over the past 5 years, these 2 mobile apps have done irreparable damage to both my psyche and my ability to engage with long-form media, particularly anime. Let's start with Reels, because that one is pretty straightforward. I think we all know where I'm going with this one. Reels, TikTok, Twitter, Shorts, all of these apps are interchangeable representatives of the short form content wave that's taken over the internet this past half a decade. As much as I want to disavow short form content as a salty, long form content creator myself, the screen usage report that I see in my iPhone settings tells an entirely different story. In 2025, I consume primarily short form content. I don't think I need to break down why short form content is so easy to consume. I mean, statistically speaking, your brain has probably also been rotted by the fucking Instagram warlocks that Mark Zuckerberg has working under him over in Silicon Valley. But when it comes to my broader consumption of media as a whole, again, especially anime, I cannot deny that my ability to engage with a long form narrative has been slowly whittled down to the point where these days, if I start a show, I don't necessarily expect to finish it. On top of the rapid deterioration of my attention span that IG Reels has facilitated, when it comes to anime in particular, I have to deal with this app being on the back of my mind at all times. This is the YouTube Studio app. Now, before I complain my ass off, I want to show a bit of gratitude. Being able to make somewhat of a living off yapping about anime has been a dream of mine since I was a child, and when I slowed down to really process the fact that I am actually doing that in the here and now IRL, I feel fulfilled. That sense of fulfillment, however, has come at the expense of my ability to truly enjoy anime the way I used to. If I'm being honest, I really struggle to watch anime these days without instinctively trying to cook up a video in my head. Sometimes, if I am really enjoying a show, I will explicitly forbid myself from making content on it until I feel like I've enjoyed it enough as a consumer. And that's actually why my videos on shows like Frieren or The Apothecary Diaries came out so late in comparison to when the shows were airing. I've burnt myself out on anime a couple times since starting this channel, and one of the only ways I've managed to somewhat combat that burnout over the past year or so is by being extremely conscientious to enjoy what I'm watching before I try to profit off what I'm watching. I started Lord of Mysteries for content. Point blank period. I planned on making a video about Lord of Mysteries ever since I saw those comments that I showed you at the beginning of the video. And when I watched episode 1 and found myself faced with this giant heaping dump of lore that I couldn't effortlessly catalyze into content, my first instinct was to dip up out of there. The crazy thing is, I actually enjoyed the first episode of Lord of Mysteries. I enjoyed the intrigue of the world. I enjoyed how ambitious the scope was. I enjoyed that feeling of having no idea what the fuck was going on, but still wanting to dig a little deeper, still wanting to let the story cook, as the youth would say. I think back to being a kid and just watching shit to watch it, right? Back when I was a kid, I had very limited control over what the fuck was on my screen at any given time. Yeah, I could control the channels that I watched, and this afforded me some degree of variation as far as shows were concerned, but there was really no hyper-specific control over exactly what was playing on these channels the way there is now with streaming. And even when they dropped on demand back in like 2009 or whatever, that shit was still kinda ass, man. They would have like a lot of shows on there, but a super limited, sometimes random selection of episodes for these shows. And so it was like, yeah, it was a mess, man. I can't believe we used to eat like that, bro. Now, in general, less options as a consumer tends to be a bad thing for like competition and product quality, price gouging, things of that nature. But again, I can't deny the fact that I was low-key better at engaging with stories when I felt some degree of scarcity in regards to media that I found entertaining. I wouldn't go as far as to say 7, 8, 9-year-old Teddy had a better attention span than 23-year-old Teddy does, but that little nigga definitely had more patience than I do now, even if half the time Lil Bro didn't even know what the fuck was going on in the shows that he was watching. I remember watching Yu-Gi-Oh! For the first time. Stay with me, bro. We're gonna get back to Lord of Mysteries. Just bear with me. But I think back to the first time that I ever watched Yu-Gi-Oh! Yu-Gi-Oh! Would eventually go on to become arguably my favorite anime of all time. I mean, I got young Unk back there in the cut chilling with us in every video. But I think back to watching this first episode of Yu-Gi-Oh! That I had ever seen. I was at my godbrother's house, and I believe the episode was the one where Yugi was dueling Pegasus for the first time. There was a whole lot of souls, Egyptian demon, scary shit popping off on my screen, bro. Main character had 2 whole different personalities and transformations and character designs. It was a lot of anime type shit that I had never seen before. Bear in mind, at this point in my life, the most action-packed shit I had ever seen was like Pokemon and like, I don't know, Super Y or some shit. Niggas don't know about Super Y. It's okay though. Anywho, even though this singular episode had scared the all-living fuck out of me on the low, and even though I didn't know what was actually happening in the show, this sense of intrigue was something that drew me in. It was something that had me obsessing over these answers that I didn't yet have. It would be a while before I ever saw the Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime again, but in the meantime, that didn't stop me from spending my parents' hard-earned money on little cardboard flaps that had dragons on them, or trying to read those backwards comic books in my local library since I wasn't allowed to watch TV on the weekdays. When I compared this 2009 Yu-Gi-Oh! Reaction to the jaded 2025 mid-sized YouTuber reaction that I had to Lord of Mysteries, it becomes pretty clear to me that I might have lost something along the way. Like, I'm losing my voice right now, holy. My internal reaction to Lord of Mysteries episode 1 was not dissimilar to how I felt about that first Yu-Gi-Oh! Episode back in the day. It was almost like an updated adult version of the same feelings. Yeah, I don't fully understand what's going on, but I want to understand more. I want to engage more. It wasn't until my fried attention span and fear of a flopped video came into play that I began to second guess that initial spark of interest. What was the point of engaging if I couldn't easily make this show into a video that would pop off? To bring it back to the series at hand, I don't think the Lord of Mysteries anime is perfectly executed, right? I don't think top-loading your show with a bunch of mostly unexplained lore is necessarily a good idea for viewer retention in the Big 25, and again, I don't really blame people for being turned off by this storytelling style. Shit, I was too. With that said though, I do think that there is a certain beauty in the risk that you take when you make the decision to buy into a sort of complex, winding narrative like Lord of Mysteries. I've always thought there was something fun about putting in the effort that an intricate story asks of you, and I want to try to use this series to get back to the version of myself who used to just do that shit for the love of the game. I'm not saying every anime ever deserves your undivided attention. If I'm being honest, most of them don't, and I'm still probably going to waste a lot of time on reels in the years to come. That's a whole nother thing that I gotta work on. But there can be a balance, right? It doesn't have to be a one or the other sort of thing. There can be both. For instance, you clearly had the attention span to make it to the end of this video. Congratulations. And as a reward, I present to you one fresh short form baby monkey reel.